Well, hello there, my friends. Welcome to Carpo's channel. It's Monday afternoon on May 6th at about 3:23 p.m. So I thought I'd make a quick video. I've been trying to find a moment to sit down and make this video today, and I end up making it like 15 minutes before I have to leave and pick up my son from school. But it comes when it comes, you know. The ideas that go through my head, it's really hard to sometimes express them. So when sometimes people might think that I make a video and it's just easy, just like I just sit in front of the camera and make a video, and that I have all this, have all these ideas that just flow, and they do, but putting the ideas together and actually making a video is sometimes more difficult than it comes across as. So right now I have this remote control that I found. It actually goes to my old camcorder, my old digital 8 camcorder, and I found that it works for this little Sony that I've got too here. But anyhow, I've got these flowers on either side. These are some wonderful lilacs that are growing in my yard, and last night I set up to do a video. I never did it, but I had this huge thing of this bucket full of lilacs behind me, and just the smell that it brings, you know, it's just one of those moments where it just makes you smile. One of those smells that just makes you smile. The smell of flowers, the smell of incense, certain terpenes and oils. For me specifically, cannabis is a major one. I mean, I actually really love the smell of cannabis. For half the time, it's not even about smoking it. I have this little joint right here that I rolled, and it's this sativa hybrid. It's like it's called Hawaiian Lights. It's like a Hawaiian sativa crossed with Northern Lights. You know, a couple of my favorites. And so anyhow, I guess what I'm doing is, you know, listing out some of the simple pleasures in life. You know, the simple pleasures. You know, just being able to enjoy a moment laying out in the yard. In fact, the other day, since I've been having weird dreams, I pulled this book out, Creative Dreaming. But inside of it, and I mentioned this in a video the other day, I found this about 5 days ago, a 4-leaf clover out in the garden. And I was walking through, it was the first one I found, and it was like a half an hour before these tickets I really wanted went on sale. So I thought maybe it was my lucky day, but it wasn't. And that's life. Shit happens. So bad things happen, good things happen. What does all that mean? What's the point? And what am I even getting at? It's all perception. How I perceive the smell of lilacs is going to be different than the way you perceive it. And the way that I deal with not getting tickets or finding a 4-leaf clover is going to be different from the way that you deal with it. And that's okay. That's the way it should be. Everyone has unique abilities to cope and change and, you know, adjust to circumstance. And we're interesting creatures, you know. I've tried to figure out what sets us apart, humans, from animals. And I thought at times it was consciousness or awareness. And then I thought, well, it was emotion. And I was like, no, we have both of those. And I'm like, well, okay, well, it's creativity. No, we have those too. Artistic nature? No. Animals build all kinds of art for their own reasons, even if it's just for mating. How is it any different with humans, you know? How can we say that we're different? And in what way, specifically? And I'm going to open this door up because it's really hot in here in the bus. And this is the first day that it's been hotter outside, or I should say hotter, outside than it was in my house. It's toasty warm. But we've been doing some work around the house, doing the old spring cleaning, if you will. And I've been going into my spring mode where I'm trying to get things done. And looking back on the winter when I felt lazy, and I thought, God, you know, why did I beat myself up over that? You know, I know that a certain time comes where I do the things that I need to get done. And it really got me into this thinking mode about a lot of different things having to do with our psyche and each individual's ability to, find the right time to do the things they need to get done. And how we're so pressured by those around us and our facade, an idea of how we should perceive things, that we don't even realize how much we are influenced by all the things around us. In other words, the pressure of other people, of corporations, of advertising campaigns and politicians and all these different ideas that are implanted into our heads that we're kind of, every one of them, the idea that a flower is supposed to be beautiful, something that simple, that when you see a flower, it's that old saying, stop to smell the roses, take the time to really enjoy the simple. And so we have it implanted in our heads that, well, we should be able to stop and enjoy these beautiful moments, which leads people to say, well, nobody's going to say, I hate flowers. I'm sure there's a few people out there who do hate flowers. But the point I'm getting at is that some of our perceptions of beauty, of nature, of what we think is important are influenced by society, influenced by others, not by our actual discovery about the way things are. We try to fit everything into a box, a nice little convenient box that fits our way of thinking, and even when we are free thinkers that can look outside that box, we're still basing everything upon our preconceived notions about the way things are. So, for example, there are norms. Like somebody we were talking about, I was talking with someone the other day about how people act differently in different circumstances, and I've heard so many people say, well, I act the same no matter where I am. And even I had that mentality at one time, that like, well, I'm the same no matter who I'm talking to. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized, well, that's not being yourself. That's not, in other words, changing your behavior around certain people, it doesn't mean that you're not your true self or not honest. It means that you've learned to adapt. It's integrity, it's integration, and it's the ability to put yourself within any group and be successful and have a discussion without offending anyone, or being able to kind of fit in a way. Fitting in is looked as a bad thing. Oh, there's my first notice. I have approximately 10 minutes to finish this. Anyhow, we have this kind of, this idea that things are a certain way, and really none of it matters. It really doesn't. All the little things that, and I'm not going to go into nihilism here because, and I don't want to get into philosophy, because the deeper you get into these things, the more cumbersome it becomes, and the more you get away from the simplicity of just the basic do what you do kind of attitude. It has to be learned. Living a happy life without offending other people, without harming other people, that's a difficult thing to do. But we can try our best to live a life of integrity without affecting others in a negative way. Generally, we affect others in a negative way if we try to prevent them from doing what they choose to do. And so, like I said about cumbersome, like, we make things more complicated than they have to be. We start getting into these crazy philosophies and technicality of things. Well, what about this? And what about this? And what about this? And that was going to be one of the topics I was going to make a video about. It was about cumbersome language, and I've already made one called exactly that before, but I wanted to use my example here, which was like these two books, for example. Two books that I've read, or that I'm reading. One is Hallucinations by Oliver Sacks, and the other one was Nature and Psyche, Radical Environmentalism and the Politics of Subjectivity by David W. Kidner. And just the title alone, Radical Environmentalism and the Politics of Subjectivity, those aren't big words or anything, but it gives you kind of an idea of what the book's like. It's cumbersome, it's hard to read, a lot of big words, a lot of complicated words, unnecessary and cumbersome words that make it hard to read. Because there was a study done, I think at Stanford or somewhere, where they found that people who use a lot of big words are actually overlooked and deemed to be less intelligent. And I had to read into the details of the study. I was going to share it in a separate video, but they had all these different admission, essays that had been written to get into colleges. The ones that were very cumbersome and had a lot of language barriers, or a lot of complicated language, were generally just like dismissed, while the ones that were simple and to the point were considered more intelligent by the people reviewing them. And I thought about that and compared it to everyday life. Like, who do you enjoy talking to? What kind of people do you like interacting with? For me, it's just the simple, average, everyday Joe. The old Joe Plumber from back in the day, if you remember that. But really, just a person who is a simple person who enjoys their life as much as they can, sees all the shortcomings in society, but doesn't sit and dwell on them, and says, hey, man, we're going to do the best we can. And those are the kind of humans I enjoy interacting with. And for a lot of people, they either want the extremely radical, they want to be the extremely radical person who's always complaining about everything, or the person who just doesn't give a shit about anybody else but themselves. And so if you want to be a happy person in the middle, that's a very difficult thing to obtain, at least from what I've found. You know, to the whole cumbersome language thing, it's kind of like the confusing legal terms that we all have to succumb to when it comes to something as simple as getting new software for your computer, or buying a computer, or getting a Facebook account, or YouTube. You know, pages and pages of very difficult language that is lawyer language that is written to complicate things, and it just kind of makes everything just a joke, you know. So because of, and I'm using that as a metaphor for the larger picture, we humans complicate everything. More bureaucracy, more steps. Everybody wants to get their hands on the wealth. And amidst it, we get confused and wrapped up in this, and we start wondering, you know, what is normal and how should we feel? And I just let go of it all, and step back and say, what really matters? I mean, what really fucking matters in this world? Not just like, should I be worried about plastics, or am I recycling enough? That kind of stuff. Like, the consumer has been made out to be the one who can make change, when in fact it's the huge corporations, the military, the government, these political interests and lobbying efforts that are really causing the major problems in the world. The rest of us are just trying to live our lives, but because of that complication, it's turned on the people, and we start hating each other, pointing at the left, the right, you know, the immigrants, whoever it may be, that we want to take the brunt of our pain because we're confused about the way things are. So I guess what I'm trying to say, I hope, you know, my message is for people to let go of what they think is true, what they think is real and right, if it's something that you've been taught, and to really step back and look at everything neutrally again and feel it from the heart. Because if anything, every method we've tried up to this point has been unsuccessful in understanding what humans should be doing or what we're best at. You know, we screw everything up. We've destroyed our planet. What do? The best we can do is follow our hearts. But when you follow your hearts, you get into the same kind of trouble, because your heart is led astray by others who have their best interest at heart, if that makes sense. So I think it's important that we navigate this world with honesty and fairness, and eliminating these bipartisan politics is just part of it. Eliminating our identity politics is key. You know, don't be associated with a left or a right or a green or a blue or a red. It doesn't matter. None of that shit matters. You know, we're so stuck on what we think is right in our team that we miss living in the real team, the team that matters, team self, team family, team community, you know, local communities. And so, anyhow, those are my thoughts. Just a light bulb went off in my head. The prop for a different video I'm going to do about electricity. I wish you all the best. I'll talk to you soon. And have a wonderful day, whatever you might be doing. It's getting hot here. Take care, my friends.